guys, how's it going? So it's kind of a chilly day out here today, and I had planned on starting my spring crops in the vegetable garden, but my plans got a little bit thwarted because I just heard from the guys who are going to be coming and putting in our new pathway here on the west side that they are going to start either tomorrow or the next day. So they came to kind of map it out, which means I need to move some plants. And so I just want to show you, this is a pretty basic video on how to move plants from one location to another if you've already had them in the ground for a little while. So let me show you. So you can see we're here on the west side. This whole area is all torn up. The concrete walkway is gone, the grass is gone, and as I move this way, I'll try to go slow. And sorry about the audio, is probably horrible. The wind is blowing. Concrete walkway is gone there. This whole area is going to look very different, hopefully, very soon. But this is the area that I'm talking about. I'm having a little island kind of put in the middle of the walkway here, and it's going to go into the flower bed that much, which means all of these perennials need to be moved. And thankfully they're not like super established. They've been in here, like I planted I think all of these last spring, so the root balls won't be enormous. And this is actually a really great time to be transplanting because it's still really cool. I mean, they've obviously broken dormancy, they're starting to grow, but they're not having to support, the root system's not having to support a huge amount of leaves and blooms and all that kind of stuff. And when it's cooler, it's just easier on the plant system. So what I'm gonna do is try to dig them out with as much of the root ball as possible, and that's kind of the key. Like, dig as big of a hole around that plant as you can manage, and try to take that whole thing over to your new location, and that way you just don't disturb the root ball. So let's do that part. I've got all the plants in my cart, and I did bring out some biotone starter fertilizer. So you do kind of just want to treat these like you're planting something brand new. Even if they're older and they're plants that you're dividing or transplanting to another area, you just want to make sure to get them started off really well. So I'll be tossing some of that in every hole, and then we will be monitoring these for water fairly closely. And in a case like this, I was lucky enough to have a little bit of time this afternoon to get these plants moved and planted in their new spots. If you don't have enough time to get them moved to where you need them to be, you can either hill them in, which just means dig a great big hole, line them up in that hole, and make sure that there's soil around their roots and you've watered them in just for temporary measures, just so that you can have them somewhere where they'll be okay and not dry out. Otherwise, if you've got some empty containers laying around where you can just put them in there for a little bit of time until you have time to get them out in your garden, that's the best thing to do, because they can't, once they're out like this, they can't sit like this for really any amount of time. And this is where I'm gonna put them. I've got a Kwanzaa cherry that's fairly young right here. It's got kind of a wonky trunk. I've never really noticed that. Huh. And then black lace elderberry right below, which I'm trying to keep size controlled. I might have to remove it. These just get so enormous in our area. I might even come in and cut it back further than that. I don't know, we'll see. So I'm planning on putting the daylilies, because they're the taller of the two, kind of in a drift right on the back side, and then the veronicas can kind of come in toward the front. All right, so I'm just gonna get after it. Working on my third day lily. Of course I ran into a drip tube. So I gotta go get a coupler so I can fix this real quick. Gonna need a couple of these and a little piece of the brown. Here we go. All done, planted, fertilized, watered in, and I will be monitoring the water pretty closely, but it is pretty cool yet. So I'll probably just have to water maybe once a week, twice a week if it's really windy until it gets warmer out. And I have run drip to this area. You might remember I planted this checkmark trilogy weigela in this spot. I completely forgot to run drip to it, and I almost killed it. Like, I do think there's a tiny little bit of life left in it, so I cut it all the way back. We'll see what happens this year, but I'm not really holding out much hope, so I may end up popping another daylily in the spot that's in. But that's what happens in our area if you forget to run drip to something just for like 1 week. But I think that these are gonna look really pretty right here. One other thing that I wanted to mention, just because I ran into it during this project, other than having to fix a broken drip tube that I ran through with my shovel, I had to pull a bunch of this right here. This is the remains from a giant quince shrub that used to be in the spot that these just came from. And we may have footage of it from when we very first moved in. There was a giant quince right there. It was so big that you had to shear it up like straight so that you could walk down the sidewalk next to it. But ever since we had that removed, it's like all the roots didn't get removed. So it's been popping up all over in that flower bed, and I've been trying to eradicate it, and of course I haven't been able to really pull it from around these plants because it was so intertwined in their root system. Because like, look at these little roots. So I was able to take a little time before I pop these in the ground to kind of unthread this or untangle this from the roots of the Veronica. I may not have gotten it all. If it becomes a headache, I will just pull the Veronicas and start over with fresh ones, because I don't want to battle that forever. But just be mindful, like if you have a super bad bindweed problem or some kind of problem in an area, like try not to move it to another area of your garden. And I also dug up an old Weeks Rose tag, variety Singing in the Rain, that apparently this rose was planted in this area at one time, like right there. Kind of interesting, like the history of the garden here. I don't even know what this looks like. Maybe I can find a picture. It's a floribunda. So anyway, that's pretty much all there is to this project. Not super glamorous, but something that we run into from time to time in the garden. We have to move things around because of sprinklers or because of new projects or just because the plant isn't happy where it's at. And that's the process I go through to move them, no matter what time of year it is. Sometimes I have to move stuff in the middle of summer when it's super hot just because I have to. I either have to forfeit the plant or I have to try to move it and save it, in which case I just have to water the heck out of it, and they usually pull through. Like, I'll cut it back, move it, water the heck out of it, and then it'll flush back typically. But anyway, this is just such an ideal time. So if you have anything that you need to get moved, like, get on it ASAP before it gets warm. So anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful, and we will see you in the next one.